Hello, welcome to the DVD tour of Old Washington, Kentucky, one of the oldest settlements west of the Appalachian Mountains. In 1763, the English issued a proclamation that no settlement would take place west of the Allegheny Mountains. It was already too late. Scattered groups of pioneers had ventured into the interior, and soon waves of settlers would follow. There they found abundant game, forests, plants, and water. Two of the trailblazers were Daniel Boone and Simon Kenton. Boone found a passage through the Appalachian Mountains where the present states of Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee come together. However, the route chosen by Kenton was easier and proved to be more popular. The Ohio River was his outlet to the wilderness, but Kenton still had to decide where to locate his settlement. Out of thousands of possibilities, Kenton searched in several attempts for the rich cane lands at the top of the hills marked by the spot where Limestone Creek emptied into the Ohio River. It was in 1775, with a companion, Thomas Williams, that Kenton reached his goal. Washington was located along the primitive road called the Buffalo Trace, originally beaten down by the American bison. The Buffalo Trace ran from the Ohio River through Washington to the Blue Licks and on to what would become Lexington. The cane was evidence of rich soil, and there Kenton decided to settle. Kenton wanted his settlement to succeed, and so he personally recruited settlers as they stopped at Limestone Landing. From the wilderness, those settlers built a community with a rich culture. In 1785, Arthur Fox and William Wood purchased 400 acres from Kenton and laid out a town. It was named Washington for the founder of the country. Local folklore suggests the name was chosen since the community aspired to be the capital of the country as it continued to move westward. More settlers came, and when the first United States Census was taken in 1790, Washington was the second largest community in what would become the state of Kentucky 2 years later. Evidence of this prominence was demonstrated as Washington was made the distributing point for mail in the entire Northwest Territory. The earliest architectures of Washington were log cabins, like the canebrake, or the cabin next door, now dedicated to Simon Kenton. Kenton ran a store in Washington, and the reconstructed cabin was once a store. Another original log cabin that was relocated on its present site is Meffords Fort. It was made from the logs of the Broadhorn on which George Mefford and his family floated down the Ohio River. Often isolated, strong cabins such as this one were called forts or stations. Mefford raised his 13 children in this small cabin with only a single room and loft. Other cabins have been built or restored throughout the village. In 1788, Washington became the county seat of Mason County, and this impressive courthouse was built to regulate the affairs of a county that encompassed most of eastern Kentucky. In 1794, the keystone was placed over the door of the courthouse by builder Lewis Craig. These houses, commonly called row houses, were actually built separately at different times in the first part of the 19th century. In 1797, the first theater performance west of the Alleghenies was performed at the courthouse. A public works was constructed in 1798 when 22 wells were dug after a lottery raised $1,000 for that purpose. The late 1700s and early 1800s brought the building of many substantial homes in Washington. This house was the Pillsbury School for Boys. Dr. William Goforth operated his medical practice from this house in the last years of the 19th century. Goforth was a fellow passenger and teacher of Daniel Drake, a founder of Cincinnati. This is Paxton Inn, built by James Paxton. He hated slavery so much, he eventually moved his family out of this slave-holding state. The building has a secret stairway and a basement that the oral tradition reveals may have been used to hide slaves on the Underground Railroad. Benjamin Bayless, one of the original trustees of the town, built this house. He would go on to fight in the War of 1812. This Federal-style home The Murphy Lashbrook House is what many see as the style of an antebellum Southern home. This building was another substantial addition to the town during this growth period. The Taylor brothers ran a general mercantile business here, selling a little bit of everything. The business spanned the 19th and 20th centuries. Other prominent homes were built near Washington. Thomas Marshall, brother of the famous Chief Justice, built Federal Hill around 1800. Marshall was Mason County clerk from the county's inception until 1812. In the 1830s, the Maysville to Lexington Road Turnpike Company erected toll houses and collected tolls from travelers. This toll house is located on Paxton Street. The homes, schools, social activities, and court proceedings made for an active community. However, Maysville, the site of Limestone Landing, was growing in prominence. Steam power had improved the river as a means of transportation. A group of prominent citizens built a large brick hotel around 1842 in an effort to retain the county seat. It was built on the old stone foundation of Marshall Key's Tavern that burned in 1825. The battle was fought in the state legislature. Maysville won that battle, and the county seat was moved in 1848. Washington would play a prominent role in what is the seminal event in American history, the Civil War. Public opinion remained split, and the Johnston House in Washington represents that split. This house was the childhood home of Albert Sidney Johnston. His father was a doctor. The furnishings are from the time period of the Johnston family. Albert Sidney Johnston graduated from West Point and was one of the most important generals of the Confederacy. After Dr. Johnston died, another doctor named Nelson moved in. His son, raised in the house, was William Bull Nelson. Nelson was a general for the Union. Harriet Beecher was the teacher of one of Marshall Key's daughters, Elizabeth. Beecher visited her student's family in this house in 1833. Down the street was the courthouse, and there it is believed that Beecher witnessed a slave auction. It is believed that scene and other characters from her visit would find their way into her book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. That novel would sway much public opinion to the cause of abolition. Religion did not escape the slavery issue. This church, the Methodist Episcopal Church South, was built in 1848. It took the southern position. It is said there was a balcony in the church. It was concluded that slave owners would bring their slaves to church with them, and the slaves would sit in the balcony. Another Washington church, built after the Civil War, the Presbyterian Church, replaced earlier buildings. This building, now a community center, was also an early church. An influx of Catholics came to Mason County in the mid-19th century. There was briefly a Catholic school in the town, and Washington was chosen as the site of a Catholic cemetery, St. Patrick's Cemetery. Singer and actress Rosemary Clooney, a Maysville native, is buried there. That cemetery, and what some refer to as the Pioneer Cemetery, are still active. While much has changed, Old Washington is still a community where people live, work, and play. We hope you enjoy both the fascinating history of our town and the community and culture we have here today.